showtime.
Before the big screen mainstream actors today.
Well, so Doug, here's a question. How can you tell the difference between the real NFT and fake?
Welcome to the Tech School Podcast powered by DSDT. I am Josh, virtually for today.
And I am Carlos
In the building.
in studio.
In studio. How's it going, Carlos?
I'm okay. How about you, sir?
Just busy. Busy.
Okay, so you were talking about jet lag earlier. What's all this jet lag stuff about?
Oh, man, I went to Vegas over the weekend for a journalism convention. NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists, along with NAHJ, National Association of Hispanic Journalists. And this was our first time for an in-person conference since the pandemic began. It had been virtual for the past few years. And this fell on Unity Year, where we come together as two organizations. 5,000 attendees at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. It was fantastic. Lots of workshops, career fair, journalists of color from across the country coming together. Amazing.
So do you guys have like seminars, workshops, and any of that?
Yes, career fair, workshops, all of the above.
Okay, so
parties.
Of course, right?
Yes.
What, if anything, was one of the greatest takeaways that you had from it?
One of the greatest takeaways, I would say, is it teaches you how to keep an open mind about everything in the industry.
Okay.
And that's very fulfilling.
Well, I can almost agree with that, right? Because the state of affairs with everything that's going on, you have to be open-minded. You know, you can't just believe that it's my way and nobody else has it right. You know, have I ever told you? See, I don't believe in absolute truths, Josh. I don't believe in absolute truths. I believe that the truth is whatever you want it to be. You know, so definitely I sit with an open mind because it can change depending upon the information that I get. So I want to be like you when I grow up.
Oh, I now want to be like you, brother.
Yes,
very
sir.
Creative.
Yeah.
Innovative.
Yeah. So weren't you headed out to Texas or something after Vegas?
So went to Vegas Wednesday afternoon, got there in the evening, went nonstop with career fair, workshops, receptions, networking, any and everything in between. Again, great time. Got back Sunday evening, jumped back into my Monday through Friday morning gig, and have been going nonstop.
Wow.
Yes.
I want to be like you when I grow up.
And then I'm getting ready to go to Houston this upcoming weekend.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you reminded me, as you were telling me earlier, man, I'm just tired, right? I went to Florida last weekend with Lisa.
Okay.
And because we're looking at other properties in Florida, because we would like to open an extension campus there. And I was down there with her a few days, came back, and I went out with some friends on Saturday evening. Let me tell you something. Sunday, I literally sat down and fell asleep for 4 hours. And it shocked me, you know, because I had no inkling that I was that tired. But I can tell you, when this body gets to that point, it'll shut down. Just shuts down. And so I definitely can understand how you can be as tired as you have been after the ripping and running that you've been doing. So
yes, and trying.
you're You're going to be getting a lot of rest, huh?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure after round 2 of traveling, that's all I'll want to do.
Just rest.
It would be work and rest, nothing else.
Yeah, yeah. But I tell you, I want to do some more traveling. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I want to do some more traveling.
Or not, Carlos.
Huh?
I'm more of a homebody.
You more of a homebody.
I am.
Man, if you stop it, if you don't stop it.
I can just chill out. I was talking to a coworker today about me traveling back to back like this, and he said, dude, it's going to be right on time. August will be almost done. College football is right on the way. Sit on the couch, chill out, relax.
You just, okay. Yeah, I find that hard to do at times. I find that really hard to do, just stay home. It's just something about it. I feel I got FOMO.
Mm-hmm.
FOMO. Feel like I'm missing something. I got to get up and go somewhere.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so very seldom will you catch me just laying at home on the sofa doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So
nothing.
What? Huh?
Nothing.
Nothing, right? All right, so today we have a very, very, very special guest. Michelle was actually provided to me, and I used the word provided. I was speaking with Lisa as I was in Florida, and as you guys know, Lisa is one of the founding members of DSDT, and so Lisa was telling me that she had a friend that was running for Congress. I said, "What? Running for Congress?"
Yes.
She's like, "Yeah, she's running for Congress, and you need to talk to her and have a conversation with her, blah, blah, blah." And then I got to thinking, I remember Michelle for all intents and purposes. And I'm sure we're about to get into the conversation of how I remember Michelle, but
absolutely have to start there.
Yeah. I don't even know if she remembers me, but it's all good. But for all intents and purposes, like I say, I would love to have the conversation about a lot of the things that are going on right now in the news politically. Now, I know we don't get into a lot of political conversation here because it's more technology, but today I think we can mix it together. You know, just because of some of the things that went on in the primaries last week here in Michigan, as well as what's going on today in the news. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring on Michelle. Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Hi, Carlos. How are you? Hi, Josh. Thank you for that nice introduction. And I do remember.
Do you remember me?
I do because I spent a lot of time with Lisa at the school.
Yeah.
I was coming in like a tornado last minute.
Well, I wouldn't have said tornado, but
well.
I wouldn't have said tornado. But I remember you as being the attorney that was an advocate for legalizing cannabis here in the state of Michigan.
That is correct. And I met Lisa because what happened is I was the attorney that had the client in Oakland County that had the first provisioning store. So the Greenhouse of Walled Lake, as you know, Oakland County is very affluent, but it was the first provisioning retail for medical back in 2018, 2019. And that made the news. And then that's how I met Lisa, because there were quite a few TV appearances in media. And Charlie's a good friend of mine, and I did Let It Rip twice, not once, but twice on the whole cannabis issue. But yes, so Lisa has turned out to be a very dear friend of mine.
Okay. All right. So can you give us a little insight as to your running in last week's primary?
Sure. It seems like it was a decade ago, but it was just last week. Mm-hmm. So I decided to take on the current Congresswoman and run in the newly defined 9th District, which is currently the 10th Congressional District. But because of the census, the lines were redrawn and there were quite a few boundaries that were shifted. And she's a first termer. So I challenged her. Obviously, I didn't win, but I did get 30,000 votes. And I did get this is a weird math fact 20% of the votes in all 7 counties. And it looks like in all of the precincts. So, kind of a little phenomenon that happened there.
What does that mean? What explain that? Because I don't tally all this stuff. What does 20% of the votes in all of the districts mean?
That means that I received for every 4 vote, in one in 4 voters, I had 1 vote. So 1 in 4 people that were going in to vote, I had 1, but consistently. So when the first reporting came through, we were 0-0, and we watched it come in, and it tabulated right away at 79-21 or 80-20. So it was very strange, very odd. So I'm not sure how that happened, but that's how it was reported and reported officially to all of the counties.
Wow.
Michelle, what was the initial reason for you to run for Congress?
The initial reason for me to run for Congress is that I have a 13-year-old daughter, and the times that she's living in are not the times that I grew up in. Where kids could be kids. And I think that there's just too much circling around these little people as far as, school. They're influenced daily with so many things that are coming at them. And as a parent, I wanted to do better. I wanted to do better for my daughter, and I wanted her to have the same kind of environment that I grew up in, as a happy-go-lucky kid. I mean, obviously we all have issues, growing up as children, but my daughter comes home and she tells me she had mental health day at school and had to write a report on it. Why do you even know what mental health is? As a 7th grader. Or I'll give you another example. We went to Texas. I'm licensed to practice in the state of Texas and before the United States Supreme Court. So I took her down to Texas when the governor lifted the restrictions and we were able to, move about. And we went down to the ranch to go horseback riding. My daughter had a panic attack because we didn't have our mask on outside at a ranch. And I said, Lauren, I said, you're fine. You're with your mom. We're outside. We're not anywhere near anybody. We're just down here to get some fresh air. And she said, but the governor said we need to wear them. And, as a parent, you want your child to be responsible. You want them to do the right thing. But you also want them to respect you as the parent. And I don't want her, I applaud her for following the rules, but she's confused as to listening to parents. And I'm sure if we're all parents, your heart kind of drops when something like that happens. And then I just realized that in order to make a difference, I've got to put my name out there, and I have to show my daughter that, to make change and to do something, you have to stand up for what you believe is right. And both my parents were in the military too. So they always told me, stand up. My mom would say, don't be a cream puff. She still says that to me. Stop it, Michelle, don't be a cream puff. You got this, So I asked my daughter before I ran, this is going to be a time commitment. And she said to me, this is an opportunity you can't refuse. And then she wanted nothing to do with the campaign going forward.
Sound like a kid.
Right? But, so mommy tried. So mommy might not be gone. Maybe I'll come back in the future and do something else. But that's what I wanted to do. And honestly, to inform and educate the constituents in my district. We don't receive newsletters. We don't know what's going on. I mean, other than having a legal background, every week I get the updates internally at my firm as to what's going on in DC. But I think the average person has no idea, what goes on in DC or what those roles are. And I try to facilitate that in my campaign by giving weekly updates as what's going on and giving information out, and let the voters decide, for their own, where they wanted to take that information and make their own decisions. So I think I got in late in the game, and I had a very small budget. It was grassroots. I didn't have any big donors or PAC money, which I'm proud of, but 7 counties is an awful lot to spread yourself out. So, so that's my story in a nutshell.
Did you have any endorsements from any of your lead Republican
well,
leaders?
some endorsements that I had retired General Michael Flynn interviewed me and endorsed me a long time ago. I interviewed with him on the phone. More so, I think, because maybe of the military background with my parents and that. And then I had personal endorsements. I had an endorsement from Michigan for vaccine choice. I didn't have endorsements per se. I filled out questionnaires, and then they would say these are not endorsements, but we're putting your questionnaire out there that you responded. Patriots, I had an endorsement from them. I'm trying to think of what else I had. I didn't have a lot, obviously, because I wasn't the current congresswoman, so I wasn't going to get those endorsements. And I did not have an endorsement from President Trump. That wasn't anything that I had.
Why?
Nor would I.
What?
What? I'm not the current congresswoman. I mean, why would he endorse me if he endorsed her previously? That's not gonna, So I didn't have anything like that. But I had personal endorsements from friends, and that's how I ran my campaign on friends and family and constituents, because they're the ones that have the voice, not the big corporations and not, the movie stars and what's, have you. So I had those. I had a little commercial we did on social media with all my friends saying they support me, at friends, family, colleagues. That type of thing. Trying to reach everybody as an individual rather than as somebody that's not, approachable.
I gotta ask this question. I got to ask this question.
I'm afraid.
So you have a Kanye that runs a campaign for presidency, right? He's running for the birthday party, right? I truly don't believe Kanye thought he was going to win. I don't know what he was doing, right? But at the end of the day, as you were in the throes of your campaign and you were up against your competition, was there any moment that you said to yourself, I don't think I should have did this?
No, not at any time did I have that. And the reason why is that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it 110%, just how I've been raised. But the one thing that I learned is that I think you said before, your own truth is what you believe. Before I come on, and I think that it was eye-opening to me that grown adults behave with a lack of civility and decorum and just manners within the own party, with my opponent. And being in a legal profession, we have a judge, we're accountable, but these people aren't accountable to anybody. And at the end of the day, your reputation and your ability to have tact is something that is ingrained and you're brought up with. I don't know if these people were born in a box or in a barn, and you know what I mean. But I wasn't going to back down. And I'm not. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and who knows, in the future I might do something else. But I was more surprised with the lack of civility from my opponent, from her supporters. And I ran a campaign not slinging mud against the other side, but talking about my issues and my my platform. But very interesting, because there's no accountability whatsoever. Whatever comes out of your mouth, maybe you shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going around lately.
In broader terms, Michelle, can you give your perspective on the allegations regarding candidates trying to gain access to voting machines illegally?
Yeah, and I am not privy to how all that would work. And the only reason I'm saying that is I can only talk about my firsthand experience. And if I never threw myself out there, I would think all this is fiction unless you're really living this reality. So I don't know how they have access to it, but I want to kind of dovetail on that. So when the ballots are done, they're not consistent through all of the counties in the state of Michigan. What I mean by that is candidates are not in the same order for every party or position that they're running for. So the ballots are not all the same. So here's my query. When I slide my ballot into that machine, how does that machine in that precinct in that county know that I'm number 2 and not number 1 as a choice? But if I go over to another county, I'm number 2 and not, they're not consistent. That's my first thing. So I don't know how that works. But having access to those machines, I break things down conceptually, and I'm trying to figure out, where were they? Are they in a locked room? Are they tabulated? Do they have access? And I guess my question to follow up on that is, don't forget that there's lawsuits that have already been filed. So the legal procedure would be, maybe some type of legal procedure in the lawsuit for how that evidence is coming forward for the plaintiff to prove their claims, not as a separate investigation if you're already in a lawsuit. So I'm not really sure how all that's coming together. And I don't know if we're talking about the August 2nd primary, or if we're talking about 2020. And where are the machines in the middle? What do we do with them? Are they rented? Do they come off a truck? Yeah, I don't. Those are questions I have lots of questions on this whole ballot thing, and where my magical little ballot goes once it goes in that little box. So I have more questions than answers for you, Josh. So sorry about that.
No, but you gave us great perspective on the fact that there isn't a consistent pattern from one precinct to the next, from one county to the next. So that is something we can all learn from going forward as well, as we see how this investigation unfolds. I'm wondering if you can also shed a little light on this question. What kind of charges could these individuals potentially face from your legal standpoint, just seeing what we've all have seen so far?
Well, I guess there's a couple of things. So you keep in mind that the sheriff that filed the lawsuit up north is in a civil action. So anytime you want to sue a state of Michigan department or entity for some type of what we call a declaratory action or DEC action, if something should have happened or didn't happen, or you're asking for clarification, that's at the court of claims. So that's a civil case, which means that criminal charges, even if the plaintiff, that sheriff, were to prevail in that lawsuit, there's no criminal charges against the state or any of their department heads or personnel, because that's not that type of case. So then, coupled with, you have this news article that broke where our current attorney general is looking into finding a special prosecutor to find out how they had access to the machines. That's criminal, and that is something that, as the attorney general, that she can bring forth. Now, I don't know what type of penalty or charges that would be, but obviously that's a criminal case. Is that a felony? Is that a misdemeanor? Are we looking at jail time? Are those even viable claims to have a special prosecutor look at? And can you put a special prosecutor with an issue that's already in civil litigation? I don't know the answer to the question. So I'm not sure why we're not keeping it in civil for sanctions, which there is a remedy for that in civil, but this is something different. So I'm not sure the intent behind that, and why wasn't that brought out when the civil case was first filed? So I have more questions.
Well,
so sorry.
Let me say this.
You asked me a question. I asked you a
A lot
question.
of, your point of view, a lot of reporting out.
Yeah. Let me say what inquiring minds are all thinking. All right. Listen, when I laid there last night and I saw this report come across the screen, I thought to myself, why now?
Right.
Why now? Right? Is it possibly because you may be, and when I say you, I mean the attorney general, is it possible that you're going to be in an upcoming election against this individual and you want to oust them before the election? So, I thought we were done with this. And now all of a sudden we're bringing it up. Oh, now we're going to make it criminal. I thought that was poor taste. I think that it ought not to be happening.
Well, and that's too. Is there a time delay, Josh, where the attorney general can bring something like this? And did she wait until the primary of August 2nd to prime that, because it should have been brought 2 years ago? But if anything, it should be brought in that case that was filed by the sheriff up north, because that case is ripe. They're in it right now. So maybe that should be the case, that they file some type of legal maneuver with how the evidence was obtained, or you file a motion, what we call eliminate, to strike that evidence. So I would have to agree with Carlos, because I'm not. It doesn't look good. The optics don't look good on that. That's just my personal opinion.
It's dirty. It's
Yeah.
dirty. You know, I just don't. I don't appreciate it for what it is. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat or whatever. It's just dirty. You know,
Yeah,
you
it's
don't
kind
have
of
to
a head
play that
scratcher.
game.
Right. And I'm tired of all the nonsense. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what you were alluding to in the beginning. You know, one of the things I was listening to you.
Carlos, real quick, one thing I just want to reinforce what Michelle said. The thing that makes this a big question mark is it's not clear if we're talking about 2020 or here in the year 2022. It sounds like that has not been fully laid out where these allegations are coming from.
No, so I read the reports. I read them. We're talking about 2020. We're talking about 2020. There were supposedly some machines, some ballot machines that they were given access to. They gave access to a third party. And so the AG is saying that they did not have the authorization to give those devices to the third party. So therefore, it's tampering with access to those voter machines.
But they knew that because those Antrim cases were already filed, and those were filed in 2020. And then we also have that recent case that was filed, I think, a month ago. I think it's Roscommon, if I'm not mistaken, the county sheriff. So those cases, one's already been adjudicated, and the other one was recently filed. So either it's a delayed reaction, or it's something that should have been done 2 years ago, and now it's primed with the primary. But if that was the issue back then when the cases were adjudicated, why wasn't it raised then? Maybe because it's a statute of limitations argument. Why now?
Why now?
Right.
Probably
Yeah,
because he was
doesn't
going to
look
win. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but this is all part of the dark cloud of, swarminess that's out there. So
Yeah.
I have no idea. You
No,
can't make
you
this
guys. I
stuff
just
up.
feel like we reinforce where we're not talking about now, we're talking about then, but we're seeing action now.
Right. So then you have to put all this together and go, well, wait a minute, isn't this old? Like you said, this is old. This is old news. We already took care of that. That's old. So you're just beating a dead horse, I think, or you're just, ripping a Band-Aid off of something we've moved on from. So I have no idea what the strategy is on that. But honestly, I don't think that's going to go anywhere, because I think if I was getting those types of challenges, I would say this is moved, stale, it's old. I don't think it's going to stick.
Okay.
That's just but stranger things have happened. I've seen a lot of weird things in the last 8 months. So
I feel like we need to jump to the very topic. The FBI raid former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence in Palm Beach, Florida. This feels bigger than classified documents being taken from the White House when he left office. It feels bigger than what's being stated at the moment.
What do you mean by that, Josh? It feels bigger.
Well, we were talking about it earlier today, and it's not anything new in particular where a former president takes copies of certain documents that are connected to their administration after serving office. So what is it about classified documents that are being searched for by the FBI? You hate to use the word unprecedented because we've used it countless times, but it seems to be
That's
the
right.
fitting word yet again.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, from a legal standpoint, from an attorney standpoint, when you look at all this unfold, where does your mind begin?
Well, first I have to tell myself I'm not watching a movie with Matt Damon in it, and it's some CIA operative, exercise that we're on,
No,
and then I go,
having the discussion. Like I feel like I'm watching a movie.
Yes, I'm waiting for like, something to drop here pretty soon. But as much as happened, right? I love the sound effects. That's like the best part of this. I actually got a text last night. Somebody's in between fielding the 20% 80/20 nonsense. I'm getting texts of, oh my goodness, did you see what's happening on the news? And to be honest, I've kind of unplugged for a couple of days just to kind of reset here. So I said, I don't even believe what you're telling me right now, And so then I had to jump online and I'm looking and speechless again. So here we have a prior president, regardless of what party, what he served, who still has security detail by the Secret Service because he's prior president. But we have the FBI going in there with a search warrant. He's not home, so I'm sure that was planned. But his attorney Christina Bobb knew all about it, who I met at one point. It was a very nice young woman. Searching his house and then breaking into a safe, but somebody had to sign off on that warrant. So anytime you have a warrant, especially to go into somebody's residence or business, you have to have probable cause. And the magistrate has to have enough evidence to sign off on something like that, because otherwise it's going to be overturned that was an illegal search and seizure. Now, I haven't been able to find anything and maybe you guys can correct me, if they walked out with boxes of stuff, if there was a picture. I don't know if they found anything, or was this just kind of an exercise, in futility. But again, I've never heard of a prior president's home being searched by the FBI, a safe opened. I don't think they found anything. And why didn't we do that with Hillary Clinton when supposedly she lost all these emails and the laptop and all that nonsense? So it just seems like we pick and choose. Right? I don't know where those emails go. Then we forget about them. And then we forget about I can't make this stuff up. I have no idea. I don't know how this got signed.
Again, from a legal standpoint, Michelle, for the DOJ, if this is not a slam dunk case, where do we stand?
Josh, what do you mean? What do you mean, Josh?
That's what it would have to be. It would have to be a slam dunk because, again, some magistrates signed off on that. And I haven't delved deep enough to find out which judge signed off on that, which magistrate they got to put that in front of, but they had to put something in front of the magistrate to sign off on that. Now, if they put something in front of the magistrate that's not valid and that they didn't, confirm it's true, that's going to be an issue. But what magistrate signed off on this and what did they present to give the rise of probable cause for them to execute this search warrant? And you notice it's crickets right now. We haven't heard anything. Did the FBI make a statement? Did I miss it? I mean, it was a big news story yesterday that they were in the house, but what happened? What came out with it? I mean, normally you watch this stuff unfold on TV, take the president out of there, but when somebody's executing a search warrant, whether it might be, you've got an unsolved murder case, they go to the alleged, defendant's home, they come out with stuff, they come out with evidence, like that woman that they're looking for, and they found her body, so you find something.
You raise an excellent point, Michelle. You raise an excellent point. I'm thinking about the video we have mainly seen as a media, as a general public so far, and it's been mainly just aerials. There have not been many, or if any, close shots, to my knowledge, at this moment, of boxes being carried by FBI agents. So what was seized? That's another question. Let's say this is not a slam dunk. Does it give, or is it already giving former President Trump more momentum, more juice, quote unquote, to run again? Because as we have seen, this current raid sparked protests for Trump supporters last night, today.
Well, and you know what? Anything that surrounds the former president is going to spark interest, news, gatherings, demonstrations, or whatnot, because again, you have that fraction of what's going on, why is this happening, and it's creating attention. So at the end of the day, whatever it is, it's definitely creating attention, and it's getting everybody's eyes open as to, number one, why is this happening? Like you said, is this a slam dunk? Because if it is, then something needs to come out showing that to calm everybody down. Because right now, you have all these people that are in an uproar and disbelief that this actually happened. Nobody knows why, but you've got people that are upset. And I don't think we want to create any more displays, distress demonstrations, any of the D's right now. So you're right. We haven't seen a helicopter with the footage, going down and watching them come out with the FBI on the back of their shirts carrying, we haven't seen any of that. So all of this unknown is going to create unrest and more questions with individuals that are very passionate about what is going on, regardless, just like the Supreme Court justices, you had people, outside their homes protesting. Now we're going to see more protests, because of this, but they don't know what they're protesting. So it creates more issues.
And from your point of view, as far as the timeline, when do we need to know more? This all happened overnight. Day 2, do we need to know more? Ideally, right now would be the preference. But realistically, do we need to know more with another day or two by the end of the week? How much time, ballpark-ish, before this really gets out of hand to people asking the question even deeper, why did you do this? What was the point?
I would think within 24 to 48 hours, something needs to come out. I mean, I know that President Trump issued a statement, just a general statement that, he wasn't home. I think we've all seen that. But other than that, we haven't seen anything. And I think the more time that goes on that nothing happens, the more time allows for all this unrest and uneasiness to kind of come to some type of, climax, if you will. But if if the information is not being disseminated, then everybody's thinking all kinds of stuff. And even if we're following, a murder case or some other case that's going on, the media is constantly on it with updates with what's, happening, or social media. There's nothing on this, like absolutely nothing. So it's another, big question mark in the bubble, over all our heads with what the heck is going on.
Although President Biden has stated, or the Biden administration has stated, the president had no knowledge of this raid, do you think President Joe Biden should make a statement on the matter, regardless of what the outcome is?
No.
I think that
No?
you say no, Carlos?
No.
No.
He needs to steer clear of, I believe.
Okay. Why do you believe so?
I believe he needs to allow, when he came into office, he said that he would allow the departments to govern as they were created. So he wouldn't intervene as the prior or previous administration had in so many of the functions that were going on. So he needs to let the Department of Justice do whatever that they feel that they have to do in order to settle whatever the complaint is. I mean, to me, right? And I'll just tell you what the inquiring minds want to know as well, right? We're not going to sit here and act as if nothing happened up until the point that his home gets raided, right? There's so much that has happened in the year that he was tenured as the president, and you really truly thought that nothing was going to become of it once he left office? I mean, it doesn't shock me one bit at all. And I get it, right? We want to be as politically correct as possible, right? But just being honest, if it was me that had done a lot of the things that our great president done, I'd have been in jail a long time ago. I'm just saying. So it doesn't shock me at all. Go ahead. I'm taking the floor with the legal expert.
Please chime in.
No,
Do you think
I would
Joe Biden should?
I would say that I don't necessarily if President Biden needs to come out, and he's not one to actually. He's not visual a lot, like every president has their own style. So he's not one that comes out a lot. Some are more spoken than others, and some are behind the scenes. But with that being said, I do think that the FBI should be making a statement. that the DOJ should be making a statement. Like Carlos said, the organizations that are handling this, just like any other type of investigation, you have the sheriff's department who exercises a warrant. They say why they did it. So they're, again, informing awareness and transparency to the American people to know what the heck is going on. Because if you don't, that just creates more unrest, and it's going to create more problems than it is resolutions, regardless of what the outcome of that is. But everyone is just kind of on pins and needles with, what is this? Just like any other sensational story that we have in the news. We're all waiting for the next event to happen, but the lack of knowledge on this, it's unnerving, really.
Okay, so here's another piece, right, that just came out today. Appeals court says House can obtain Trump's taxes from the IRS. I mean, I'm not Stevie Wonder, but I can even see the writing on the wall. I mean, it's too much happening. If you're waiting for the next 48 hours to get a word from anybody, look at what's going on. It feels as though the Berlin Wall is beginning to crumble.
Well, I will say this on the tax returns, just from being a federal candidate, they're not discoverable. So when you file for candidacy, you don't have to turn over your tax returns because those are personal, and and you don't have to have any type of income requirement or anything like that to file. So just in general, not because it's Trump's information or even my information, I would be a little unnerved if I had to turn them over when it's not required. So I understand why he's going back and forth with that. It just, because of the position that you're in, nobody in a federal office is entitled to turn over their tax returns. Just a general rule. Why they're asking for them, I have no idea, but there must be a reason. But I think if you're going to do that, then I think, we have a lot of questions. Why are a lot of elected officials millionaires? As far as, is there insider trading going on? As far as having some type of tips to, rotate your stock and, that type of thing. So there's obviously a reason for it.
Yeah. And we will learn real soon.
Right. So we're waiting to finish the book.
This has nothing to do with the insurrection on the U.S. Capitol.
No, it didn't. Nothing. It had nothing to do with that, I'm sure.
It's been stated as of now from the FBI, it has nothing to do with it. At the same time, I'm playing a little devil's advocate, just asking the question, not making a statement. Is it hard to believe this raid has no connection to the insurrection?
Absolutely, it's hard to believe. Wouldn't you say, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's just a lot of unrest and unanswered issues pretty much all the way around that none of this stuff is going away anytime soon. So it would be nice if we could close chapters on some of this, even within our own state, like we talked about the voting machines, but we're not. We're just keep pulling off Band-Aids and ripping the wounds open further, as opposed to, all right, let's settle this and let's move on from that. And it's just a constant tornado of more stuff being added to the whirlwind, I think.
Yeah, that I believe. Yeah. So why don't we take a break and come back after these messages to finish this conversation up? All right, guys. We are going to take a quick break.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Josh.
I'm Carlos, better known as Crypto Los.
This is the Tech School Podcast powered by DSDT.
I just made up Crypto Los in case you didn't.
And that's exactly what this is. It's a great season. Season 4, we're back in the building, side by side.
If you haven't checked out the podcast, make sure that you go to it wherever you get your podcast from.
But in the meantime, see ya!
Hello, I'm Jason Stemmer. I served 5 years as a combat engineer in the United States Army. In the summer of 2019, I joined DSDT to learn advancing technologies in computer support, networking, cybersecurity, many valuable tools in digital media. DSDT is partnered with a lot of veteran-friendly employers, and with the help of DSDT's job placement assistance, I was able to quickly begin work in the IT field. I'm very pleased with this direction as there is unlimited potential in the technology field, with no signs of growth or demand ever slowing. So come in for a visit, take a tour, and schedule a meeting with an advisor. DSDT really changed my life for the better, and it can change yours.
At a Detroit School for Digital Technology, we strive to provide students who are willing to learn new and exciting skill sets with a quality education in cutting-edge film technology to include recording in HD and 4K formats, drone videography, editing, and state-of-the-art color grading. Our instructors are friendly, knowledgeable industry professionals who are willing to teach. For more information, call us at 313-263-4200 or visit us on the web at dsdt.tech.
We are back, folks, having a great conversation on everything that is going on in the political world. Michelle, like we just said a moment ago, about the focal point needs to be, regardless of the outcome, closing chapters. It's time for closure on all of this.
Yes, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think we live in an age in our lifetime within anytime soon that there's just too many issues that are piling on as opposed to resolving issues, unfortunately. And I think it's just getting stretched more than it needs to be. Even if I go back to my reoccurring theme is, civility and decorum with each other, no matter what the issue is, how we engage just on a daily basis in our lives. And I don't see this changing anytime soon. I think that, for lack of a better word, everybody needs to, I'm a Christian, not everybody is, but everybody needs to find their God or Jesus or whatever and start being better humans, for sure. Not that I want to throw the religious thing in there, but I just don't even believe the world I live in sometimes.
It's a lot to take.
Yeah, but you know why? And that's because our world is gone. It's gone.
What do you mean by that, Carlos?
Listen, if you are 45 plus, your world is gone. It's not the world that we used to live in. The day when you could, go outside the house and play in the street from sun up to sundown and just have a good old time. We didn't have access to the information the now generation does. They think they're smarter. They think they're tougher. I was telling my kid the other day, there's really not too much I care about besides respect and that you tell me the truth. That's the only thing I care about. I don't care about anything else but the respect. And it seems to me that our society has lost so much of the respect foundation. And you can see that, right?
You see that even in little things, when you go to a store or, a service provider, or just, I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but just kindness goes a long way. And I think that that's what we teach our children. I mean, what are we leaving them as a legacy where everyone is just cranky and mean and, you got to pound your fist to get an answer and be nasty. And I saw a lot of that during my campaign. And these are grown adults. Some of these people are older than me and their behavior is just atrocious. And even now, my grandmother would always tell me, if you put your head down at the end of the day and if you're happy with, how you behaved, with God and your own mother, then that was a good day for you. But if there's things that you shouldn't have done or said, then tomorrow's a new day and go forward. But, I don't want to do the religious overtures, but I think it's a lot
you just did.
I did. But
the person who says I don't want to do it is the person that did it.
I know. I'm a lawyer. I talk nonstop, but I don't think in our lifetime, I would like to see these issues resolved before I retire. That's part of the reason I ran for Congress, is just to get in there and talk sense with people, because I think that everybody reacts as opposed to taking a step back and going, okay, wait a minute, what are we doing? Why did this happen? How do we fix this? We're in a society now where we overreact to everything, or we blow up and we do things that we're not proud of.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Hey, let's pivot the conversation a tad bit. One more item we do have on the agenda. There we go. Biden working on cannabis campaign pledge. What is this to be exact? Let's get a little bit more background.
So what they want to do is we're trying to pass, and I actually lobbied for this years ago in 2019, I think I did. That was my first interaction with state or U.S. reps and senators. And I actually had a conversation with Senator Booker's attorney at the time. So what they want to do is the cannabis industry does not have banking because it's illegal under federal law. So they want to pass the MORE Act, and the Safe Banking Act, which allows banking in states that have legalized cannabis. And the problem is, as states legalize cannabis, we have issues with banking, right? So it's a cash business, and then we have to find these state chartered banks or these credit unions, and you have to go through the spending process, blah, blah. Anyways, so as part of this, in getting this passed, there's a social equity component on this, and it's been hung up between both parties for many times. It keeps passing the House, and I think it's passed the House, I don't know, 8-9 times already, but it's not going to pass the Senate because they're locked with the social equity component, meaning that Biden wants anybody that's been in jail for marijuana charges to be released, which is great because, it's like a low-level hanging fruit crime right now because it's legalized in half the states. So that should just be a given if you want to legalize this. But that's not just it. And then there's other issues to taking it further for other social equity components. Like here in Michigan, in the city of Detroit, we had a law. It legalized adult use, but then it was challenged. And when it was challenged, it revoked the law. The language was in there. Now they're going back to it again. So but I think they're trying to put too many things in this bill to get the intention passed. They need to legalize banking so that these states that have it legalized, which is the majority of the states, are allowed to bank safe as opposed to, having issues with crime, and that happens. But it's not going to happen with this social equity overlay unless they do a separate bill with social equity. But I think they're trying to put too much in one bill. And this has been going on for 4 years at least, with both parties trying to come to some type of resolution, which is not going to happen.
Are there 2 or 3 main items you think should be on this particular matter to build some traction?
Sure. I think that the intention of the bill is there's a couple of bills. So there's a bill for safe banking. Well, let's pass the bill for safe banking without throwing other stuff in there, which is
and
what
that means what to the
that
everyday
means that the states that have legalized marijuana can bank. They can go to Chase, they can go to Bank of America, they can go to a federal bank, FDIC institution in the state where it's legal. That's it. That's kind of a no-brainer, right?
Okay.
But there's other components that they want to add into that bill that makes it hard for it to pass. So if they just separated that bill and passed that bill, but they can't because all sides will not agree on that unless you do this for me by putting in a social equity or do this, I'm not going to pass your banking act. That's what the problem is. So then you have the other bill where they want to decriminalize marijuana charges, which is fine because if it's illegal in a state that's not legal, then it's illegal. But if you're in a state that it's legal, I mean, this is like common sense stuff, but this is stuff that nobody can get done because everybody's butting their heads together. And when they're not taking the common sense, I don't want to say common sense, but just the principle is, can we bank in the state where it's legal? Yes. Okay, let's pass a law that says we can do that. Let's move on. Okay. Do we, that's really all it should be.
What about expungement for folks who have done hard time on marijuana charges in the past and are now released?
Right. So, yes. So in Michigan, we give a credit for time served, if you will. And so you can expunge certain types of charges and offenses, but they can't have multiple charges on them. I get people that come to me and say, but it was armed robbery, but I had a marijuana. I'm like, nope, you got too much going on in there. It just needs to be cannabis, marijuana, and then you're good. But if you start throwing other things on it and you had multiple charges, then you can't do it. So I'm all for cleaning up a record for somebody that had a marijuana charge, serve their time, paid their dues. Let's expunge it and be done with it. Like it never happened because now it's legal. Same thing like prohibition. Back then, it was illegal and people, were, doing bootleg whiskey and whatnot. And then, houses were catching on fire and then they would hose them down. And eventually they were like, oh, let's make this legal. So if you were charged with that, but now it's legal, then technically you weren't really charged, right? You paid your dues and we reward those people. So in Michigan, they're social equity candidates. So you pay a smaller fee for licensing and you pay a smaller fee on your application. So and we didn't have that before when we first started doing this licensing. So now we've come a long way in the state of Michigan. And I think Michigan's a model state for cannabis regulatory work, to be honest, not just because I'm involved in it, but now a social equity candidate can get a discount and can apply for that social equity license to have a cannabis license in the state of Michigan. So we reward, I don't want to say reward them, but we recognize them for what happened to them in their past. And then we give them some concessions by way of paying less fees. But you have to prove the charge. But again, it can only be a marijuana conviction. So individuals, if they have multiple convictions in the crime of that one act, it won't work. So I'm all for that.
Wow.
A lot of people are mad at me when I say that type of thing, but that's what the law is designed to do, though. Mm-hmm. It's doing its job.
It's kind of straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not make this pledge murky.
Right.
Let's stick solely with cannabis, solely with marijuana. Yes, it will make people upset, but it's reasonable.
It's reasonable. That's it. It's reasonable. It brings, this is $1 trillion industry, $1 billion industry, actually, in the state of Michigan. It brings in so much money and revenue in distressed communities, so it's a win-win once that perception is out that this is not, some dark and seedy thing. They need to understand it brings in jobs, it brings in revenue for the community, and you can have community programs. But the individual that was charged with something like that also has some concessions to come into that business because of what happened to them in their past. So it's a win-win. And oh, by the way, we have some banking. So my clients don't have all this hard cash laying around.
That sounds so crazy to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's it.
You have a business, but you can't deposit your profits.
Cash.
You can have the business, you can operate the business, but you can't put your money in the bank.
No, but you know what though? They still pay taxes to the IRS and they still pay taxes to the state of Michigan in cash. So there's an office in Detroit where I'm at for the IRS, and my one client would circle the block like 3 times in a day to drop off $10,000 at a time, so she wasn't dropping off $50,000. And the IRS takes it; they'll take the cash, knowing that it's illegal under federal. Does that make any sense? But they don't want to have all this cash. So there are some banks in Michigan that will allow them, but they have to go through a vetting process. It's a big ordeal, but there are a few.
Wow.
But you would want commerce. We're not like a third world country where we're, but we are. We have all this cash on us, and all those places have cash. Yes.
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Listen.
I don't know.
Talking about us older than 45, right? Cannabis in particular. I cannot get with the nowadays thought process. When I was younger, if you got caught with an ounce of marijuana, you was going to jail, right? And I hear that nowadays that's not a thing.
Nope.
Right? I mean, it blows me away. You still can't get in Carlos's car with it. I'm just saying, right? Because we're not going to get pulled over with your cannabis.
You can have 2.5 ounces on you and not be charged with anything. But if you got 2.75, you're in trouble. So you can have 2.5 on you.
2.5
Which is a lot.
ounces?
Which is a lot.
Whoa. Josh?
Well, don't go running around with that. That's like, I don't know how much that is.
Very big bags of marijuana.
He said it's too big bags.
We've all seen an ounce of marijuana in our lifetime.
No, we all have it. Don't say that. We all have it.
I've never smoked it or eaten it or tried it or nothing. Everybody thinks that's funny.
Oh, nothing about smoking it or having it, but
Hold on, stop. I heard that. What did you just say, Michelle?
Never done it.
You've never tried marijuana and you're one of the biggest advocates of it?
I know, isn't that funny? I can talk to you about the compounds and what it does. I have the creams, for pain and anti-inflammatory, that kind of stuff. But no, I've never smoked. I'm not Bill Clinton. I never even puffed, never smoked, never ingested an edible. Nope.
Oh, wow. You got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not. Scout's honor. I swear. I swear.
Hey, Carl,
done it.
That only makes her position on the matter even stronger.
How?
Because she made her point. Michelle made the point of what it does for the economy, what it does for jobs.
Okay. All right. I get that. But what about what it does to me when I eat them, I smoke them? Do you know really what it does if you have not partake of it?
No, but I will tell you this. When I go in a facility, I can be all like wound up. I get the contact buzz or smell or whatever. And then when I leave, I'm like, oh, it's really nice being in there. And then it all comes back again. So I kind of get it. I have the most calm meetings with these clients on site. If we're meeting in my office, it's crazy. But if I'm there, I'm like, somebody got a pizza or something? Are we having snacks? What's going on here?
Wow.
But then it goes away. So
wow.
Yeah. I do notice the anti-anxiety level goes down a bit. I think that's done on purpose. That's why they have me come in. But no, I've never.
So in my mind, you know what I hear? I hear the word abolitionist. Abolitionist. Someone that really are in it with you because they believe that it's the right thing to do. Even though they may not be directly affected by it, but they believe that in it so much that they become your biggest supporter and your advocate. I believe that that's what you are.
Well, thank you.
Hey, stop that.
Is that a bull?
Yeah. And I guess, it's great to have people that support you in that way. Even though they may not be directly affected by it, but to be there in the throes, in the thick of it. Prime example, I have a good friend in the Ypsilanti area, and he was one of the first ones to get a dispensary license. And I'm talking years ago. And he had so many issues with the city as he was trying to build out, and it was those individuals who didn't necessarily partake that actually gave him more assistance to be able to do exactly what he wanted to do, which was ultimately open the dispensary. Mm-hmm. So if not for individuals like you, a lot of us wouldn't be able to do the things we want to. Here's one of my bigger questions. Can you have a dispensary license if you are, in fact, have a criminal background?
You can, as a social equity candidate, only if it's a marijuana charge, not if it's another, drug-related charge or robbery or other felony.
Only if it was marijuana?
I think there, Carlos. Honestly, when you really sit back and think about it, let's stick to cannabis.
Right. So I've done a lot of licensing. I'm knock on wood. I've never had one denied. So I'm 100% with my licensing. But for the criminal background, it depends on what it is. Like traffic offenses, drunk driving, those types of issues don't come into play. But if you were convicted of armed robbery, or any type of drug charge. Even like I've had people say I had a cocaine charge. I served time in federal prison. I'm like, no, you're not a candidate. How about your, a wife or relative or something? But you can't. Just like law enforcement or people that hold political office can't have an interest as well. So it's a little dicey with the type of offense and charge that someone has had.
Wow. Wow. They can continue to find ways to discriminate against us. I'm
Right.
just saying.
Well,
I'm
I'm
just
thinking
saying.
the whole shroom things is going to take off. I don't know anything about mushrooms, but that's the next thing, the
True
psychedelics. So
is the
that's,
next wave.
that's the next wave that's coming from the West Coast here. And there's already, talk in Michigan about it. And I'll be honest, I know nothing about mushrooms or
It's
shrooms or
legalized in
dropping acid or whatever. I know nothing
It's
about that. But
already, in Ann Arbor.
What did you say, Josh?
It's already been decriminalized in Ann Arbor.
yeah,
Mushrooms?
yes, because Ann Arbor will start first. Like it was already legal in Ann Arbor, marijuana many years since John Sinclair's arrest, who I met, by the way. I met John Sinclair, and we gave him an award last year at the state park, which was very nice.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I can't get with it. I can't
He's,
get
he's,
with it.
the, he's the reason why we have the hash bash in Ann Arbor.
Went to one
So
hash bash in my 30 plus
I've never
years of
been.
being here.
I heard it's a party, but I've never been.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Definitely. I also hear that you do a lot of work with the veteran population.
Mostly because my parents and I was raised in that background. So part of what the research is in Michigan for cannabis is the excise tax. 20 million goes into a grant fund to help fund research for veterans with PTSD, and I have some close friends that are affected as well. So, and just growing up in the environment, and I want to give back.
Yeah.
Got a special spot for the vets.
Oh wow, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I just had a thought. Do they get free edibles by being veterans? I'm just asking.
Oh,
They're well, they're always looking for participants for the research studies, and I know that especially my client out in Walled Lake does a lot with the veterans as well. But I'm sure, Carlos, if you know of a friend that wants some free edibles, we can hook them up.
Josh.
Asking for a friend.
yeah, I'm not.
Josh. Josh.
I think we need to let Michelle enjoy the rest of her afternoon.
Yeah.
Michelle, great conversation.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate how you came and gave a broad perspective without choosing either party line.
Yeah.
Great insight. And the thing to really take away from, although it may not happen, we would like to see some chapters closed with the outcomes.
Yeah.
We will only have to see what happens next.
Yep. I agree. Michelle, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me. It's been a pleasure. We should do this again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Please thank Lisa for getting in contact with Michelle.
Absolutely. That was a diamond in the rough. Absolutely. Josh.
What's up,
edibles. Carl? Free edibles. I'm just saying.
You need
free edibles? Okay. All right, man. All right. All right. I was just, it was an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But I understand, the opposition of if someone has other charges, other illegal drug charges, it's a debate. It's definitely a debate regarding expungement or being able to maintain a cannabis license. But I think maybe this is something to keep in mind of keep it just on cannabis where you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe by just saying, okay, cannabis only if you serve time for a cannabis conviction, that's expunged. If you only
Yeah.
had a cannabis conviction, okay, you can have the right, you can maintain a license. Maybe that's the starting point, and then as time goes on, deeper conversations can take place.
Yeah, I don't know because chances are if you had a cannabis conviction, I know individuals who got caught with 50 bails,
Mhm.
which is a lot. It's a lot. So, are you saying the guy who may have had a retail fraud case and ended up in some sort of locked up felony situation, he's not as entitled to have that type of dispensary, that type of business opportunity as the guy who had the 50 bails? I'm just asking. Inquiring minds want to
Great,
know.
great question. Maybe it's anyone who's convicted of a violent crime or an illegal drug charge.
Well, think about it
Again, it's
then. Think about it. If they were convicted of an illegal crime, then wouldn't the cannabis actually help to sedate them? I'm just saying.
I guess
Edibles?
what we're getting at is that she brought the example of, and of course, an illegal crime is going to get you convicted. Of course, again, I'm jet lagged. I think Michelle raised a good point where if you were convicted of cocaine possession or meth possession, sure, you should have the right to maintain cannabis, but should you maintain the right to distribute cannabis?
Yeah.
That's a bigger conversation. Or if you had a cannabis conviction along with a cocaine conviction, it gets murky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, maybe this is somewhere to start, and then those conversations can come down the line.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can tell you right now, I'm not privy to those. I'm just saying.
Hey, it's good dialogue. At least we're having this conversation finally. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for the Tech School podcast powered by DSDT. For Carlos, I'm Josh. See ya.